and made new families, and they're here.
It's the first time I've sat down here and in this space here, and I've just met somebody and just having a delightful conversation. It's just great to have this little meeting spot.
The entire campus is 2 acres. Total cost over $141 million. There's also a full kitchen with a 12-week cooking class.
They learn how to cut vegetables, they learn how to cook vegetables, all the way up to filleting fish and butchering chicken. Then they go and start making the meals for the center. So we do about 400 meals.
And the point of this eventually is to hopefully have them cook at restaurants.
Absolutely. So the third part of the program is that we place them in restaurants for an internship.
And that is all in just phase 1 of the project. Phase 2 is expected to bring some 99 units of affordable housing for seniors, plus 25 units of supportive housing for young people. Expected completion date on phase 2 is mid-2020.
So we're right outside on our rooftop deck. And we're overlooking our new senior housing that we're in the process of being built. It's phase 2 of our Anita Mae Rosenstein campus.
It makes good sense to have seniors and young people mingling.
Absolutely, yeah. The whole concept of the campus itself is to connect our transition age youth, 18 to 24, with our seniors. In the LGBT community, many youth are disconnected from their families, so our seniors can provide a mentoring role of connecting with them and helping them to understand how their sexual identity is part of who they are.
There's people out there that are trying to build a wall to keep vulnerable people out. We built this to invite those people in, and we think that's better. We're very proud of what that represents.
The new campus will serve as the LGBT Center's flagship facility. The original center will be transformed entirely into a health center. The next time there's an earthquake or fire, will you be ready? Well, that's the hope, as LA City Council member Mike Bonin recently hosted an evacuation drill in his district to make sure residents are prepared.
Everybody talks about being prepared for an emergency. Are you prepared?
I'm only half prepared, I would say. We have some stuff, some bags, some water. We don't have everything.
Well, today we have a large-scale evacuation drill for the residents of Mandeville Canyon to be prepared in the event of an inevitable brush fire. So there's some unique challenges in this area when you have large fire apparatus coming up a small canyon road and people trying to evacuate out. And so what we're doing is simulating a wind-driven fire, like a Santa Ana wind conditions that would start north of Mandeville Canyon in Stone Canyon and come towards this area.
Doing an evacuation drill here in this neighborhood is absolutely essential. It is one of the neighborhoods that is most at risk of a wildfire. There are limited ingress and egress from this neighborhood. Mandeville Canyon is a long, winding road with no other way out.
I think it's absolutely necessary. I think everybody who live in Canyon should be here. If you look at the fires that we've had up north and how the people have suffered from that, there's no reason for people not to be here.
People should be here because the people who don't know can create problems for people who do and be in the way instead of being part of the solution.
Being able to test out again and again how to do an evacuation, what works and what doesn't, and how to engage folks best to notify them and get them to participate is absolutely essential.
We're going to just do the exact drill as if it's a real thing and do the best that we can so we can learn from it, debrief, and become better.
Are you ready?
Well, I think that we can always be more ready.
Good Samaritan Hospital hosts an annual blessing to raise awareness about bike safety. And as Gil Reyes reports, a special LA City Fire Department team is honored for their service.
Children on tricycles and their parents are among the folks gathered outside Good Samaritan Hospital in Westlake for the 16th annual Blessing of the Bicycles.
We have a whole community of cyclists, and that's what you have to do, is you have to bring people together. We're working to bring about awareness, to just share the road, motorists to just be aware of turning, looking in their side mirrors to look for cyclists.
Hospital CEO Andy Lika hosts this multi-denominational service, a safety blessing for cyclists and their bikes before they hit the road. Perhaps a little prayer before every ride isn't such a bad idea. Last year, the Department of Transportation says 21 bicyclists were killed on LA City streets in vehicle-related accidents. That's tied for the highest number since 2003. Mayor Garcetti's proposed budget sets aside $117 million for traffic and safety improvements. You know who else rides? The LA City Fire Department Bike Medics. They received this year's Golden Spoke Award for safety from the hospital.
We have a full-time team at Los Angeles International Airport where they're 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, and they provide EMS support to the fire companies around the airport.
Are able to get anywhere in LAX in approximately 2 to 2.5 minutes. That's about 6 minutes faster than any fire engine or paramedic rescue.
And while the nearly 200-member bike team is saving lives, the medics follow the same rules of the road as these kids. Just ask their moms.
We tell them to be safe, to make sure that they wear their helmets, and that they're conscious of where they're going.
Mayor Garcetti's Vision Zero plan aims to eliminate all traffic deaths in LA City by 2025. Well, thousands of Angelenos came together in solidarity to mark Israel's 71st Independence Day and to celebrate the Israeli spirit with lots of entertainment, food, and family.
Love you, Israel!
We are here in Rancho Park for the incredible Celebrate Israel Festival for the 75th anniversary of the State of Israel. And we are in Los Angeles, which has the largest population of Israelis outside of Israel.
Trying to educate the entire community, even beyond our own immediate community, about how rich the history of the Jewish people are.
We have a lot of booths from different organizations that are supportive of Israel, a lot of elected officials and notable community leaders, and it's just a great celebration of the State of Israel.
We personally feel this is our gift to the community, to be able to have the community come together in the park in a place that so much resembled Israel.
To be surrounded by so much love and passion for like my home country, and just to see people so excited about it and to celebrate it, which is what this is.
The miraculous creation of a state of Israel is something that is a celebration not only for Israelis but for Americans as well.
It's an annual tradition that brings families out on the water to experience the LA Harbor in a whole new light. The Port of LA hosted free boat tours to mark World Trade Week, and we climbed on board.
Today, the Port of Los Angeles is hosting its annual free harbor boat tours in honor of World Trade Week. We host them every year. It's the Saturday after Mother's Day. We get about 2,000 visitors come down to the port, and we have them boat tours in two locations, Wilmington and San Pedro.
Well, I brought my family down to the waterfront here in Wilmington because I never want to miss a chance to show people what a fantastic place the Port of LA is. There's so much going on here that's good for the region, good for the city, good for the country, and good for us locals.
The port is probably one of the largest employers somewhere, some way. Everyone's job is kind of connected back to the Port of Los Angeles. So it's always nice to know where your items come from, your clothes, your shoes, your television sets, your easy chairs, and even your cars.
I liked it because you got to see the view of the port, and we could all see the rescue boats. We saw a fireboat, and we saw seals.
do you get when you mix opera and mariachi? Well, you get an incredible fusion of sound and culture that's music to the ears.
Mi cantar se vuelve gitano cuando es para ti.
Today we're having what I think is a perfect LA day. We're here at the heart of Old Los Angeles, El Pueblo de Los Angeles. This is, I think, our 5th year of bringing LA opera artists, our community performers who are part of the Zarzuela Project, together with the Mariachi Conservatory and Mariachi Voz de America to create this extraordinary kind of fusion of music.
Even though we are two different music genres in music, we're coming together and performing and giving a free concert for our community here in Plaza Olvera. It would be wonderful for us to be able to have our community, or my community, be able to be more exposed into zarzuela music. And with mariachi accompanying the zarzuela singers, that just kind of brings a little bit of the Mexican flair to the zarzuela.
The streets around Hollywood High School just got a lot safer. City leaders come together to keep Los Angeles beautiful, and signs marking athletic championships are unveiled at Sierra Canyon High School. All this in City Beat. Sierra Canyon makes history. Porter Ranch's Sierra Canyon School, normally known for its academic achievements, has scored big on the athletic side too. The school's boys and girls basketball teams have both cinched the state championships for 2019, a first in California state history. Congratulations, Sierra. Up at Hollywood High School, Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell cut the ribbon on the installation of new state-of-the-art pedestrian lights. Pedestrian safety has been a long-time priority for O'Farrell for very personal reasons.
Just about a block and a half away from where I lived in 1982, when I had my first apartment, and I would jog around the track at Hollywood High. I always believed in Hollywood, and I do to this day.
And at City Hall, 400 attendees shared ideas and inspiration at the second annual Beautification Conference. Focused on creating a greener, more sustainable Los Angeles, the conference both welcomes and empowers local residents and communities who share this brighter vision of tomorrow. The Health and Garden Expo, hosted by A Place Called Home, gave community members lessons on being healthy, from new recipes to learning about cultural events.
This is our annual Health and Garden Expo. This is an opportunity for us to share with the community ways to get healthy, eat healthy, learn how to grow a garden, organic vegetables, learn recipes, and then also be exposed to various kinds of cultural events and ways to, take responsibility for their own well-being. A Place Called Home is an oasis here in South Central LA. Every day we're serving young people from 8 years old into their 20s with help for education, the arts, mental health counseling, nutrition, athletics, and a pathway to college or a good job.
It's a place where kids can really be creative. They have an amazing multimedia space and an art space.
Anybody that comes here, it intrigues you. It makes you want to come back. It doesn't like, you don't come here and just be like, wow, this is another organization. You're like, whoa, this is actually somewhere I can call home. This is a place that I can actually call home.
We were thrilled to be, an honor to be a part of this event. It's just fabulous.
Do you love animals? Then help celebrate National Animal Rights Day. Take part in the biggest family party of the summer and come out for a classic car show to benefit a good cause. All this and things to do. Sunday, June 2nd is National Animal Rights Day in Los Angeles. Join the nonprofit March of Silence as they enlist artists, influencers, sanctuaries, and animal rescuers in their mission to end animal cruelty and exploitation. National Animal Rights Day LA kicks off on the north lawn of Pan Pacific Park, located at 7600 Beverly Boulevard. The event takes place on June 2nd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. For details, visit thenard.org. It's the family event of the summer. The SoCal Moms Great Big Family Play Day returns for the 6th year. This party of the summer features all-day live entertainment, interactive experiences for kids of all ages, food, big raffles, and more. Don't miss this chance to have big-time fun with the entire family at the SoCal Moms Great Big Family Play Day, happening Sunday, June 2nd, beginning at 9 a.m. The party gets started at the Autry at Griffith Park, located at 4700 Western Heritage Way. For tickets and details, visit SoCalMoms.com. Get your motor running for the right cause. Join LAFD and LAPD for the 16th annual Still Saving Lives Car Show. This event is part safety fair, part live auto auction with displays, demonstrations, and a raffle. Proceeds from the event will benefit the Widows, Orphans, and Disabled Firemen's Fund. Admission is free to attend, so swing by the Still Saving Lives Car Show, happening Saturday, June 1st at Warner Center Park, beginning at 9 a.m. For details, visit vtac-vtd.org. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's it for this edition. I'm Yana Kay. From all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. See you next time for more of LA This Week.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today.
Good morning, good morning. Could I ask everybody to attempt to find a seat? The place is packed. We want to welcome each and every one of you to City Hall, to this council meeting. We do not have a quorum as of yet, but we can begin our program. Ms. Rodriguez, if you're ready, why don't we start off with today's presentation? So if everybody could please try to find a seat. Ms. Rodriguez, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. Well, it is a very special day in LA.
Now that's worth a bigger round of applause than that.
Come on, guys. You know, as my colleagues were noting, it's only in Los Angeles where we can honor one of the greatest ska bands and honor Jewish Heritage Month all at the same day. So this is what Los Angeles is. And I am very proud to be joined today by members of the Specials, Terry Hall and Horace Panter, who and Linval Golding, who unfortunately they've had the most ridiculous tour schedule. And I don't know how you guys keep pace. I mean, frankly, your schedule seems a little bit crazier than mine. And it's phenomenal, the tour schedule that they've maintained. But today we are here to celebrate and honor and declare in the city of Los Angeles the Specials Day in LA. And we are doing so as we commemorate and celebrate their 40 years of musical excellence that has really touched so many of our lives. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize my favorite rude boy who's in the audience today, my husband, Raul Fontanelles. Rally.
Let's give Raul a round of applause, my man.
But I want to, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Specials, I want to thank my staff for pulling together a wonderful clip to help introduce you. So we'll go ahead and play this first clip.
Stop your messing around. Better think of your future. Time you straighten right out, creating problems in town. Routine, a message to you. Routine, a message to you.
So I recognize that many of you may not be familiar with these fine gentlemen, and their music has really been woven into the fabrics and the narratives of our lives. So often their music plays, and it's been mainstreamed in a number of commercials and movies, and you just never really recognized it, because I know many times when I've asked folks if they like ska music, many of them really don't know what that is. So I want to share with you a little bit of familiar history, and I also have one more clip that we'll share shortly. But first, I want to give you a little bit of a brief history. The Specials formed as an artistic response to what was happening in the 70s in England, and high levels of unemployment, anti-immigrant sentiment, and a rise in neo-fascist skinhead groups. During this time, these fine gentlemen you see behind me and some of their mates were some of the first to marry the frenetic energy of punk rock and the soulful melodies of Jamaican ska. In '79, in Coventry, England, the Specials were formed, and in the late '70s was a time filled with racial tensions, but the Specials were made up of both black and white performers, and their lyrics encouraged racial harmony while celebrating our many differences. For me, it was really an opportunity for us to celebrate at a time when we see such a rise in these very similar sentiments, for us to recognize and uplift individuals that are contributing to helping spread the word and the message, that together, embracing our uniqueness and our differences makes us far more powerful. That is who we are in Los Angeles, and that is why we are declaring today, May 29th, the Specials Day in LA. And so I want to share with you a brief clip because it's one of my favorite clips. And I think if you don't, for those of you that see it, I think it's just a reminder of, again, how this music has been woven into so much of our youth. And so I'd like to play this next clip. Right? Everyone wants Joan Cusack skanking, right? So bands, bands like Madness, The Selector, and the English Beat would follow the example that was started with the Specials, and their songs, A Message to You, Rudy, Ghost Town, Gangsters, and so many others are still heard in clubs and on radios around the world. And so with their latest album, Encore, released earlier this year and quickly climbing the charts, they are in the midst of another international tour, and I am so proud to be joined by them today and to have their presence honor us here in Los Angeles Council Chambers. 40 years has gone by very, very quickly as you wink. And with that, I'd like to invite the lead singer for the Specials, Terry Hall.
Thank you, Monica. Sincerest thanks to Monica. It's a really fantastic honor, and it's just really beautiful. And on behalf of the Specials, we'd like to thank you with all our heart. Thank you.
Horace.
Thank you very much, citizens of Los Angeles. You have great taste in music. But thank you for acknowledging the music that we've played, but also what it stands for. And I say this on behalf of Linval, who can't be here today. It's been remarkable. If somebody had said to me 40 years ago that I would still be playing this and have a reception like this, I would have been incredulous. But this is wonderful. Thank you very much indeed.
So, Mr. President, colleagues, again, thank you for helping me give the most distinguished honor we can give folks that helped to create the narrative that we need to exemplify here in Los Angeles. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, we declare May 29th, the Specials Day in LA.
All right. Madam Clerk, we have a quorum. Would you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Harris Dawson, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rodriguez, Rue, Smith, Wesson. 12 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Smith moves, Krikorian seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Cedillo moves, Koretz seconds. That brings us where?
Mr. President, for the record, item number 29 is the budget resolution. It has been submitted, posted to the council file, and is now before council. Items 1 through 6 are items noticed for public hearing. For item number 1, the Department of Building and Safety recommends that the lien be reduced to $928.40 and confirmed. And Mr. President, there are cards on 1 and 2, sir.
Let's vote on the remaining. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Continue, please.
Mr. President, items 7 through 28 are items for which public hearings have been held.
let's prepare to vote on these items. If we can, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Continue.
Item number 29 is an item for which public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, that item is now before this body. You have cards on this item?
Yes, Mr.
Then
President.
continue.
And Mr. President, that takes council back to items called special, public comment, or general or presentation, sir.
Okay, I'd like to recognize Mr. Blumenfield, Mr. Koretz, Mr. Rue. Are you guys ready for the presentation? All right.
All right. Well, welcome to the 3rd annual celebration of Jewish Heritage Month in City Hall. All right.
Yeah.
What an amazing turnout we have today. We've got literally almost 400 people sitting behind me and outside. It's an incredible turnout. It's wonderful to see all these people here today. And it's wonderful to partner again with my colleagues, Mr. Rue and Mr. Koretz. And I especially want to mention Councilmember Rue's Deputy Chief of Staff, Adina Bleich, who really led the way. Where is she? There she is. Adina. My constituent, his works for David, though, and John Popach on my staff as well, and all the folks who helped make this happen today. It really is, it's spectacular. So being Deborah, what does that mean? It is a celebration of the influence and inspiring women who helped shape Los Angeles. Some of them have since passed, but many are right here in this room. In fact, let's hear it for all the women in this room. Now, Deborah historically was the only female judge mentioned in the Bible. She was the prophet in the time of around 1100 BC. And all this month, I hope you've seen the wonderful art exhibit on the bridge across from the controller's office. There you can see an amazing array of women we are recognizing, and you can even pull a fact sheet about each one of them. And when you look on that wall, you'll see some women that you know and that are part of the fabric of society. You may not have even realized were Jewish leaders. And then you'll see some other folks that you don't even know about, and you're going to learn their story and be really impressed and amazed. I'm so happy that so many are joining me again this year as our city attorney, our controller, and my colleagues on the council, David Rue, Paul Koretz, Paul Krikorian, Greg Smith. You may recall that 2 years ago we had a wonderful exhibit display sponsored by the UCLA Alan D. Levy Center for the Jewish Studies and the Jewish Historical Society. It was called From Brooklyn Avenue to Cesar Chavez, and it was about Jewish history in Boyle Heights. Well, they're sponsoring again this year, and so you can see that slightly revised version of that exhibit again. And last year we built on that. The theme was 150 years of Jewish cultural heritage in Los Angeles. And this year is bigger and bolder than ever, and my colleagues and I will be recognizing all of this year's sponsors as we go through the program, throughout the program. And just a little more on Jewish American Heritage Month. A lot of people wonder what being Jewish means. Is it a religion, a culture? Both are true. Is it an ethnicity? That's also true. What's unique about it is there's really no right answer. For everybody who's Jewish, it's some different combination of those factors that make you identify and self-identify as being Jewish. While the Jewish people began with the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, there are many different ethnicities within the overall Jewish ethnicity, and certainly within here in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, Jews have helped push the envelope on social and political issues, not just for themselves, but for others. Jews were among the first to march along the civil rights movement in the South, contributing to the change in this country because we've understood that through our heritage, what it has meant to be persecuted and kicked out of practically every country in the world. Part of the fabric of being Jewish means caring about the plight of all people, trying to heal the world. You've probably heard Tikkun Olam, which is a saying you'll hear Jewish people talk about all the time. The women that we honor today and the entire month did just that. They are helping the downtrodden, and that is a key to their Jewish identity. Now it is my pleasure to turn it over to Councilmember Koretz for some additional opening remarks. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Bob. Jewish Heritage Month is an important event that allows us to recognize the invaluable contributions of Jewish people. I'm honored to celebrate our heritage and especially the contributions of Jewish women who have been positive change agents in our city. It may seem that we have many Jewish celebrations throughout the year, whether it's religious observances like the high holidays or times like Holocaust remembrance, but with anti-Semitism on the rise, presentations like ours today, where we celebrate the heroes in our community, especially the women who have made great change, not just in the Jewish community, but in the city of Los Angeles and beyond. They are role models. They're certainly role models for Jews, and they're role models for other women, but they are role models for all of us. Thank you to everyone who made today possible, and particularly to Councilmember Bob Blumenfield and Councilmember David Rue.
Now, the next thing is we're going to have a little performance. I'd like to welcome our performers. The group is called the Jewish Women's Theater. Now, the Jewish Women's Theater was created over 10 years ago when 3 women came together to create a theater and give Jewish women a voice on the stage. On practically no budget in those early days, they've grown to perform throughout California. So apropos, they perform here for our theme, Being Deborah, inspirational Jewish women who've helped shape Los Angeles. And that was in the spring of 2007. In the fall of 2008, the Jewish Women's Theater debuted in the backyard of homes in the Pacific Palisades and with the express purpose of giving voice to Jewish women on stage. Until then, no theater company in America had pledged to welcome and encourage contemporary stories by Jewish women and to adapt them theatrically, giving them life in front of a live audience. They had no space, they had no money, but what they had was talent, creativity, and drive. And these women wanted to share their stories. And that opened up a new way of thinking about theater in the age of old traditions of salons, women hosting culture of the day in their homes. Sparing the expense of a theater, sets, costumes, and props meant that they could focus fully on presenting powerful stories in unexpected and convenient venues, reaching much more of a local neighborhood across Los Angeles. And the theater soon became a project of community partners, the gold standard for nonprofit fiscal sponsorship, and launched their signature groundbreaking program, At-Home Salon Theaters. Since then, they have grown exponentially, drawing over 13,000 patrons annually in a variety of venues in Southern California, the San Francisco Bay Area, and beyond. Jewish Women's Theater has partnered with over 50 organizational partners to bring a unique brand of entertainment out into the community, including synagogues, museums, art galleries, universities, community centers, senior service living facilities, and even into our prison system. So far, hundreds of stories have been presented in over 30 original salon shows produced, including seminal ones such as Stories from the Fringe, the trailblazing stories of women rabbis, Eden According to Eve, Bible stories from a feminine perspective set in contemporary times, Chutzpah and Salsa, the Latino Jewish experience, and much more. Their future legacy states, we look forward to our second decade giving voice and celebrating untold Jewish stories, giving all access to these contemporary treasures via digital formats, licensing and tours, and creating a lasting legacy for future generations. Just last week, I went to one of their salons. It was called True Colors. And it was really inspiring and amazing. It was about Jewish women of color and their identity, and I brought my family and my kids, my family which includes my kids, not to be separated there. Sometimes not, as Derry points out. But I thought it was really important, both because my kids are are Jews of color, and for them to experience that. And it was really an inspirational performance. And in fact, I believe part of their performance is going to come from that, where they do a series of vignettes. So without further ado, let me call up Rhonda Spinak to give you a certificate and then get your theater group performing. Rhonda? There you go. Well, first, please accept this certificate of appreciation for the Jewish Women's Theater.
Thank you so very much.
And then bring up your
Okay.
your group.
Really appreciate it.
Or
This
you-
is well, I just wanted to say I accept this honor on behalf of our board, our council, the staff, our Emerging Artist Fellows, funders, actors, writers, and the thousands of patrons and fans who give our work meaning and focus. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And thank you for that wonderful comment. I'll come back to that. So, we are very honored and grateful to be here celebrating Jewish American Heritage Month and excited to share two pieces from True Colors, which the councilman mentioned that he saw just a week ago. It's an original Salon theater show that explores the lives of Jews of color as they strive for inclusion and acceptance in Judaism and in our city and country. While Jewish Women's Theater began by giving voice to Jewish women, and thank you for that beautiful introduction, we are now leaving no contemporary Jewish story untold, giving voice to all Jews, regardless of observance, ethnic background, country of origin, gender, or sexual orientation. In hearing each other's stories, we combat dangerous stereotypes and build understanding, empathy, and ultimately friendship. The talented Joshua Silverstein performs his own piece, Special, which JWT commissioned exclusively for True Colors. Catherine Washington joins on the violin and vocals. Please enjoy. Thank you.
I'm special. But as a kid, all I wanted was to be like everybody else, especially cool people. You know, Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer, Pepe Le Pew. Like I said, cool people. I spent my entire adolescent years in Los Angeles wishing I was someone else. I spent hours in the mirror rehearsing disrespectful language and offensive behavior just to fit in with cool people I would later on ignore on Facebook. It isn't until I'm in college at a small art school that something in my brain clicks. I'm the only person of color here, and my classmates could care less to know my name. And my name is special. My name is Joshua, not Josh. My middle name is Reuben, after my grandfather's original first name. He changed it from Reuben to Robert to not get beat up by Nazi sympathizers. My last name is Silverstein. As a child, to gain popular points, I would lie to other kids and tell them the author of The Giving Tree was my dad. And it's the first days of art school. Teachers calling roll say, Silverstein, Silverstein, Joshua. They look around for the obvious white face, see my hand raised proudly, and look annoyed. Other students turn to see my brown skin, and a look of confusion falls upon them. This attention makes me reflect on my own personal Jewish experiences, like middle school, getting sent to the principal's office because the substitute teacher thinks I'm pretending to be Joshua Silverstein. Like high school, joining the Jewish club to pick up girls, how I was the only man, more importantly, the only black man in the club, how the other members made me feel special and exotic because I was black and Jewish. All the times I was told I was pretty because of my ethnic makeup. All the times I was ignorantly told I had good hair because of my dad's genes. And so, it is while sitting here in college by myself at lunch, I realize, oh my Jewish God, I'm a sexy unicorn. A black Jew? Had that ever existed before me? The internet's barely a thing, so I can't Google it. But then I remember Lenny Kravitz exists too. So it's just me and Lenny, two sexy black Jewish men changing the Jewish game. I complete college quickly and begin embracing my theater roots every night of the week. I love watching what happens when hosts say my name and I walk on stage. Is that a, but he's how? I soon begin to start my sets by saying, hello, my name is Joshua Silverstein, and if you're confused by that, you're a racist. You'll get it later. And the only reason why I'm receiving all of this attention is because of the ignorant belief that Jews are always white. But I love it. I bask in this attention I am given. It is this ignorance that is helping me stand strong in my individuality, book gigs, and date women. They've never seen a me, a proud black Jew, a black man who is actually more Ashkenazi Jew than anything, 55% to be exact. But saying I'm a Jewish black just sounds offensive. As a Hebrew, I begin to make more Jewish friends than I ever have before, and they love showing me off. I'm like a pair of Jewish Jordans. This is my friend, Joshua Reuben Silverstein. Joshy is my sweet Afro bubbler. Isn't he adorbs? These are people my own age. I'm invited to synagogues to lead discussions of diversity and inclusion, even though secretly I'm like, if you guys start to really embrace diversity, I'll be out of a job. Because this belief of me being one out of two black Jews is really working for me. 10 years pass, and I have become the most famous, the third most famous Silverstein in the world. In my mind, there's Shel Silverstein, the author, Silverstein, the band, and me. I am special, special, special. A high school friend reaches out to me on Facebook to tell me about this Jews of Color Shabbat that's happening soon in LA. Jews of what? She tells me about this community of people who meet on a regular basis. Some are even part of a Jews of color camp. Jews of what? When are these Jews of color meeting for this Shabbat? I write, and I keep thinking, there are others like me, other unicorns. I have to go. This might be my tribe. The Shabbat is held at one of the members' homes. The homeowner greets me at the door. She is my complexion, strained hair, round cheeks, shorter than me, bubbly personality, and Jewish. Too Jewish. There are others, different heights than mine, kinkier hair than me, charming, attractive, funny, too funny. All Jews of color, not just black ones, but Mexican Jews, Filipino Jews, Indian Jews, all joking and sharing stories and eating and drinking together. This is going great. I do not like this. My pulse is gradually climbing throughout the evening. How dare these people exist? Is this some sort of conspiracy to belittle my limelight? Because it's working. I came here to shine, but here I'm just some light-skinned guy in the room. Compared to them, I'm barely Jewish. I didn't have a bar mitzvah. I didn't think people would go. I hate temple. It's boring. There are actual prayers said during Hanukkah? Not according to my atheist Jewish grandparents. These are not the experiences I'm hearing from most of these Jews of color who can quote the Torah on command. I had been considered to be a Reformed Jew, but here I am something else. Here, I'm just a black guy. No, not a black guy, a black goy. I go home feeling like I'm living my own episode of The Twilight Zone. Suddenly, I'm not special. And these Jews of color won't let this episode end. They start showing up at my shows, popping up on my Facebook and Instagram feed, inviting me to their super diverse weddings and parties, and they're calling me their friend. They want me around, even though I don't have the same exact Jewish or black experiences they have. Apparently, while there can be similarities and intersections, no two black Jews are the same. I know. And apparently, there are way more than just two. These people want me around not just because I am black and Jewish, but because I am Joshua Reuben Silverstein. Because I am the only Joshua Reuben Silverstein that has my memories, my experiences, my life. There will never be a me like me ever again. And being around a bunch of unicorns, I realize that me being just me is pretty special.
I'll go it alone, that's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me. I gotta be free, I just gotta be free. Daring to try to do it or die, I've gotta be me.
Well, thank you. That was incredible. Thank you so very much. Let's give another round of applause for the Jewish Women's Theater. Do you want to come? our controller and our city attorney could join us as well as Councilmember Bob Blumenfield, Paul Koretz, Paul Krikorian. I think we're all going to be up, so come on up. But I am so proud to help put up this annual event that celebrates our city's dynamic Jewish community and shares how the Jewish history is imbued into the story of Los Angeles. And I'm so pleased to invite up one of the people who can tell the story best, and that's Stephen Sass of the Jewish Historical Society of Southern California. Stephen?
Thanks so much, Councilmember Ryu, for your kind introduction. I also want to thank you and your office, especially Adina Bleish, for your extraordinary efforts in making this celebration happen again this year. When National Women's History Week was designated in 1982, the Joint Resolution of Congress stated, American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of our nation's life. And despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the body of American history. And as Seidel Kramer and Jenny Mazer note in their book, Jewish Grandmothers, although all minority groups are victims of our society's propensity to stereotype, Jewish women in particular have suffered from this traditional glossing over. When they have been recognized, it's been only to face denigration. Their stereotype is multiple. One facet involves the image of women in general, another centers around the caricature of the Jew. This morning, as we celebrate Jewish American Heritage Month with our theme, Being Deborah, a history of Jewish women creating change in Los Angeles, here in Council, and in the special exhibit profiling 30 women and organizations on display in the Bridge Gallery between City Hall and City Hall East, we hope to create change in this narrative by beginning to acknowledge and pay long overdue tribute to Jewish women's contributions to our city. In the Bible, as Councilmember Blumenfield mentioned, Deborah is one of the major judges, meaning charismatic leaders rather than judicial figures, the only female judge and also the only judge to be called a prophet. Who is the Los Angeles Jewish woman? Like Deborah of old, she is a decisive figure, leading change, exhibiting courage and conscience, often in the face of opposition or indifference. Here are a few examples. She is Ernestine Greenbaum, born in Germany in 1832, and one of the few Jewish women in the tiny pueblo of Los Angeles when she arrived in 1852. Ernestine, the mother of 8, who were the first Jewish children to be born here, and her husband Ephraim hosted the first Jewish religious services in the front parlor of their home. Inspired by the hospitality of California rancheros, coupled with her strong entrepreneurial spirit, Ernestine opened a boarding house for unmarried immigrants. That evolved into the successful White House Hotel, which she owned and operated in the 1870s with another Jewish woman, a Mrs. Goldstein, underscoring that from the earliest pioneering years, Jewish women in Los Angeles exercised the right to purchase their own property and to conduct businesses outside the home. She is Rosa Newmark. Born Rosa Levy in London in 1808, she married Joseph Newmark in New York in 1835 and had 6 children, 4 girls and 2 boys. Arriving here in 1854, the Newmarks became the city's leading Jewish family. In 1870, Rosa founded LA's first women's charitable organization of any kind, the Ladies Hebrew Benevolent Society. While the society's membership came from the Jewish community, it was observed that there has never been a public calamity where assistance was asked that the society did not respond. The group is one of the forerunners of Jewish Family Service of Los Angeles, which continues to serve all Angelenos, regardless of faith or background. Less well known is that Rosa was also active as a fundraiser for our city's first institution of higher learning, St. Vincent's College, which we know today as Loyola Marymount University. She is Dr. Sarah Vason. Born in Illinois in 1870 as the daughter of a family of 9 children, Sarah became interested in obstetrics and gynecology at a very young age while helping her mother. The first Jewish woman to graduate from Keokuk College of Medicine in 1892, after working at Philadelphia's Jewish maternity home, she moved to Los Angeles in 1905 to become resident physician and superintendent of Casper Cone Hospital, the forerunner of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. She was only the second Jewish woman to practice medicine in California and the first to hold a supervising position at a hospital. After leaving Casper Cone, she opened a successful private maternity clinic and also volunteered to provide medical services to the poor. She is Rose Sarah Phillips. Born in Russia in 1890, Rose Phillips graduated from USC Law School in 1915 and was the first Jewish woman to practice law in Southern California. She worked for the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office from 1915 to 1945, first as Deputy City Prosecutor and then as Deputy City Attorney, the first woman to serve in those positions. A front-page B'nai B'rith Messenger article about her in 1919 quoted her views on the role of the prosecutor. The prosecutor must not be a persecutor, but should work on the basis of social service. I'm not interested in securing convictions. I'm not after records. I want to help people and have no desire to push anyone down. The work of the courts should be to improve people rather than to punish them. She's Carmel Myers, the daughter of Rabbi Isidore and Anna Myers, founders of LA's Sinai Temple. Carmel was one of the first female Jewish silent film stars and was unabashedly proud of her heritage. When Sam Goldwyn sent for me, I went with my mother. In those days, our mothers were our agents. Goldwyn addressed himself to Mother. I think I can do a great deal for your daughter. I can make a very big star of her, but of course she'll have to change her name. I spoke up and said, why, Mr. Goldwyn? He said, why? There's enough anti-Semitism in the world. We don't need to add to it by flaunting ourselves. I replied, if I have to hide the fact that I'm a Jewess to become a big star, I would just as soon not be a big star. Thank you for your time. Myers acted in 70 films, including for Goldwyn, opposite such leading men as Douglas Fairbanks, Rudolph Valentino, and John Barrymore, and made the transition to TV as host of her own talk show. She is Thelma Tibby Eisen. Born in LA in 1922 to an Orthodox Jewish family, Eisen grew up playing softball and was already semi-professional by age 14. An outstanding athlete, she played in a short-lived professional football league until this city council, well, not this one, banned tackle football for women in 1941. Eisen then became a top outfielder and right-hand batter for the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, the subject of the 1992 hit movie A League of Their Own. Eisen was inducted to the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame and Museum in 2004. She is B. Abrams Cohen, whose daughter Janice is here with us this morning. Grateful to America, where she moved from Romania at age 10, B. wanted to give back and join the U.S. war effort, working as a real-life Rosie the Riveter at Douglas Aircraft in Santa Monica. She then enlisted in the Army and worked mimeographing top-secret documents and also on kitchen patrol. Cohen spent more than 70 years supporting military and Jewish charities, including 35 years serving the National Ladies Auxiliary of the Jewish War Veterans and helping children with cerebral palsy. When she died in 2015 at the age of 105, she was believed to be the oldest living female veteran in California. She is Carolyn Layton, whose family are also here with us this morning. Carolyn launched a technology and aerospace consultancy firm in 1985. The stories of frustration she heard from the brilliant, well-educated women in the companies that she worked with inspired her to start Women in Technology International in 1989, just as the internet and digital evolution swept California. Now a global organization reaching over 2 million people, this year WITI celebrates its 30th anniversary, working with hundreds of companies to remove glass ceiling barriers for women in tech, continuing Carolyn's powerful advocacy and vision. They are the Jewish women of South LA who joined with their African American neighbors in the 1930s to overturn the LA Rec and Parks Department's outrageous policy of only allowing blacks to swim in the city's pools on the day before the pools were cleaned. They are the Jewish women who, together with their Latino co-workers and neighbors in Boyle Heights, worked to improve wages and working conditions in the garment and food processing industries and achieved unparalleled benefits, especially for the era, such as equal pay for equal work and vacation pay. They are those featured in the exhibit who I've been personally fortunate to know and from whom I've learned so much. Donna Bajarski and Rabbi Denise Egger, and Zichronan Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, Pauline Hirsch, Dr. Barbara Meyerhoff, and Barbara Yaroslavsky. They are my 11 nieces, the Jewish women of the future, represented here this morning by my niece Jamie Cooperman, who is already making her mark as an attorney in LA Public Service. As the authors of Jewish Grandmothers note, to these women who have contributed so much to our lives, in some cases to our very survival, we owe a history of themselves, and by implication, their generations. To ourselves, women and men, we owe a sense of pride in those who helped to make us what we are, and the reconstruction of lives with which we should and must identify. Today, we begin to tell their stories so that none of these women, and no one like them, is ever left out again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Stephen. That was so educational and informative. And you know, we are gathered here today to recognize Jewish women who are creating change in their communities and helping build a better Los Angeles. And you know, if some of the honorees who can stand, if you want to come join us, come on up. You know who you are. We're going to call you one at a time. And to start us off, we're going to invite up City Controller Ron Galpern to begin with his honorees.
Good morning, everybody. What a great pleasure and honor it is to be here to celebrate Jewish American Heritage Month and some really extraordinary women. Give them a hand. Thanks so much to Council Members Blumenfield and to Council Member Rue and to all of the other council members and Council Member Koretz and Krikorian and Smith for co-sponsoring this and for all of your hard work and for the work of a great staff in putting this together. This is a great opportunity to celebrate and recognize a community that is intertwined in the social, political, cultural fabric of Los Angeles. Jewish history in Los Angeles is Los Angeles history. Los Angeles history is also Jewish history. And we are part of the mosaic. Jews from Europe, Jews from Eastern Europe, from the Middle East, Latino Jews, African American Jews, and interestingly enough, the rabbi of the most prominent temple in New York now, a Korean American Jew. It's been a place for Jews to flourish here in the United States and in Los Angeles. But we also have to recall the past and to be vigilant about the future. Recall a past in which many universities, many clubs, many neighborhoods, many schools, Jews were barred. And also recognize that today, despite so many ways in which the Jewish community has flourished, we see the specter of anti-Semitism and of violence rearing its ugly head. And yet, we persist because tradition teaches that we have a responsibility for tikkun olam, which means repairing the world. Now, Los Angeles is also a place that has welcomed many Holocaust survivors. My father was one of them, and has welcomed immigrants from all over the world, and may we continue to do so for all time. And I am very proud to be able to honor today Sidonia Lax. And Sidonia, would you like to come up? Now, by the way, everybody should have a Jewish mother or a Jewish grandmother like Sidonia Lax. Interestingly enough, as she walking into City Hall this morning, it was a slow walk, and not because of her pace. It was because she seemed to know everybody in this building, and because she knew them all by name and had to give them all a kiss. And there is nobody who does not love Sidonia. And it is really an amazing story that she has. She is one of the strongest women that I have ever met. And I met some really strong women. My mother was in the Israeli army. My My grandmother had escaped pogroms in Russia and then later on made her way eventually to the United States. So I know some strong Jewish women. But Sidonia is incredible. Here, join me. She was born in 1927 in Przemyśl, Poland, and her family was pushed into the Jewish ghetto after the start of World War II. In her young life, she lost both her mother and father to Nazi terror. In all, 60 of Sidonia's relatives died in the Holocaust. Eventually, she was captured, and she was jailed, and she was sent to a series of labor and concentration camps, including the infamous Auschwitz, where her head was shaved and where she was tattooed. After escaping Nazi clutches by jumping from a burning train, she made her way to Los Angeles in 1947 and lived with her uncle just above Sunset Boulevard. She attended Belmont High School and took night classes to become a laboratory technician, eventually working for Temple Community Hospital. She then got married, started a family, and for more than 30 years, she and her late husband, Louis, ran a knitwear business in downtown LA. Since 2007, she has led the change of the Builders of Jewish Education March for the Living in Poland and has made many visits there with teenagers, teaching them about the history of the Holocaust and helping those with limited financial resources make the trip through a scholarship program that bears her name. She's also a longtime resident of Sherman Oaks. She's been a member of the community with neighborhood groups. She's on a neighborhood council. She has spoken to thousands of students and residents about her experience, giving them hope. And from her civic engagement to her philanthropic efforts to all the things that she does for her friends and for her family, she does it all. We should all be so lucky to have as much energy as her. She has been quoted as saying, "I'm not a survivor, I'm a thriver." And at age 92, you are thriving. Just a few weeks ago, I was visiting Sidonia at her house, and we were having a spirited discussion on everything, on politics, on the state of Los Angeles, on the tree on the street that had not been trimmed. You name it. She is a spark plug. And so on this special day, on behalf of the city of Los Angeles, I'm incredibly proud to honor Sidonia for all that you have done and continue to do for survivors and their families, for thrivers, for the Jewish community, for all of Los Angeles. So please join me in a round of applause for Sidonia. Congratulations.
Thank you. Now.
And lastly, I've got some very, very quick certificate.
I have to talk.
You have to talk.
Yes,
Okay.
I
I'm not going to argue with you on that. This is why I love her.
I am a survivor and a thriver. I thrive by what I get, but I make my life by what I give. I do services every single day. What I want to tell you now, and all of you better get pencils if you know how to spell the word. Resilience, Holocaust resilience is taught today to American soldiers and even American doctors. You can quote me because it's in the papers. So, from now on, all the religions I appreciate. I am a black captain. I have blacks, I have Armenians, I have all the religions on my block. and they're all my friends. Believe me, from now on, respect. You, every one of you, is a brother's keeper. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Please don't forget if you want to remember me. During the war, my mother was gone. My father sadly heard that somebody smuggled apples into the ghetto. He went in and never came back. And today, when I go on March of the Living, thousands and thousands of people know me as the Apple Lady. So if you call me Apple Lady on the phone, I know you were here. Thank you very much for coming and allowing me to talk.
I think I've got two very quick ones. Isn't she amazing? Wow. I've got two other very quick certificates to hand out here. One is to recognize Women's International Zionist Organization that has helped in all sorts of programs for children, for the elderly, and please give it up for them. And also to the Israel Bonds Organization that builds all sorts of amazing infrastructure, including water projects, things that help all the people in the region. So give them a congratulations as well. Thank you so much. Gina Raphael, thank you.
Thank you, David, for that stirring introduction. I appreciate that. I'm Mike Fewer. I'm the city attorney, and I want to begin, as I was listening to the other speakers, I have a real privilege to acknowledge an extraordinary woman. Before I do that, I want to just speak for a second about, I was thinking about my grandmas, actually. My grandma Ethel, who was born in a little village on the border between Russia and Poland. The Cossacks were ravaging the community and slaughtering Jewish people, and when she was 12, her parents said, "It is not safe for you here anymore. We're giving you a ticket to go on a boat to America. We will never see you again." And eventually she made her way to Boyle Heights, where she and my grandfather made a life. And I think about my father's mother, my grandma Dorothy, who was the one kid in 10 who the family could afford to educate. So she rode on the top of a train. She couldn't afford a ticket in the train from her little village into Moscow to become a doctor until they found out she was Jewish. And that ended that dream. So she tried to become a teacher, and the same thing happened. And eventually she too immigrated to this country and became the assistant manager of somebody else's mom and pop grocery store during the Depression to make a living. My two grandmas have an extraordinary impact on me. Their courage, their determination, their passion for education have lived on through my family. And it's in their spirit that I want to recognize the woman whom I have very privileged to choose to acknowledge today, Giselle Fernandez. Giselle Fernandez, Giselle, could you come forward, please? Giselle has a fan club over here. I could hear the special woos for you. She is, as many of you know, the anchor of Spectrum News, The Beat on One. Giselle has an extraordinary career. Born in Mexico City, she grew up in East Los Angeles, and then she became a journalist. And what a journalist she has become. She is a 5-time Emmy Award winner for journalism. She was a correspondent at CBS News and occasionally anchored the CBS Evening News on weekends. She was a correspondent for NBC, anchoring the weekend edition of the Today Show. Also, sometimes the weekend edition of the NBC Nightly News. As a special correspondent, listen to some of the historical events she has had the ability to chronicle. She reported on the Cuban immigration crisis, the unrest in Haiti, the invasion of Panama, the World Trade Center bombing trial. And Giselle was one of the first journalists ever to interview Fidel Castro. She has been the co-host of Access Hollywood, the co-host of This Week in History on the History Channel. She's a children's book author. She's developed films and television projects. She has a documentary entitled Our Story to raise awareness of healthcare crisis confronting low-income Latino children. But Giselle is more than one of the most accomplished journalists of our generation. She's also a member of the Smithsonian National Board for Latino Initiatives, the Board of Trustees of Children's Hospital, a strong supporter of City Year, and in 2006, Giselle was named Outstanding Philanthropist by the Association of Fundraising Professionals. But I wanted, after describing some of her accomplishments, to, if I could, borrow from her own voice and speak in words that Giselle has chosen. Because for her, Judaism is both importantly spiritual and has a very practical role in motivating tikkun olam, to change the world. We must do all we can, she says, to empower every facet of society to fulfill their potential. Hers is an activist's voice. That's one reason she's so proud to be on Spectrum News 1, which focuses on inclusion and community, the impact of the individual on society. She has a unifying message. I guess when you're the daughter of a flamenco dancer and expert on Mexican folklore, you're used to becoming a voice of unity. She's especially concerned about the immigrants of our world and the anti-immigrant sentiment that is so pervasive and the division that it sows. As a Jewish woman, she's written, I recoil in despair over the displacement and dehumanization, the cruel and inhumane resentment and rejection of our fellow brothers and sisters. I deeply care, she says, about those who experience what we as Jews have for centuries, and feels incumbent on us, especially Jews, to raise our voices and open our hearts to those who, like us, have been pushed out and denied a home simply for being different. Giselle has a 13-year-old daughter who is Guatemalan. Their daughter and Giselle have been working with the San Fernando Valley Refugee Children's Center in North Hills, where they assist kids who are seeking asylum. Giselle says, I'm proud to be Jewish and to be raising a Latina Jewish young woman who will raise her voice against injustice and oppression and indecency as she grows into the young activist she was meant to be. What a special and extraordinary person we are honoring today, Giselle Fernandez. And I have two certificates that we'll take the photograph with. And put the mic down. Yes. Congratulations, Giselle.
Thank you so much.
We've also been asked to present a certificate to our friends at the Jewish Historical Society of Southern California. Steve, you want to come up? You know, you've heard from Steve Sass, and as he's pointed out, outstanding women in Jewish history here in Los Angeles. I've had the privilege to know Steve for maybe almost 30 years now. And
You're not that old.
And one of the projects of the Jewish Historical Society is to restore the Breed Street Shul in Boyle Heights, a place my family knew well growing up. And Steve, on behalf of all of us in the city of Los Angeles, I'd like to present this to you and to the society for the very important work you do to raise awareness of Jewish history for the Jewish community and for the wider Los Angeles community as well. Steve, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to continue the streak of bringing up amazing, powerful Jewish women. Stephanie, could you please join me up here? Here, wanted to honoree today is Stephanie Wolfson. Stephanie comes from an amazing family. She's here with her parents and her husband, Jonathan, right here in the second row. And she lives in Woodland Hills. And she is a trailblazer in her own right. She has worked as a consultant to the Resource Center for Educators at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. She helped launch an award-winning family education program at Congregation Orami and was the interim head of the religious school. She also served on the board of Love and Care and Help the Babies, Congregation Orami, and Viewpoint School. And as the Director of Education, Stephanie has spoken at the 48th Annual Scholars Conference on the Holocaust and the Churches, presented the work of David Lepkowski at the Litvak World Conference in Vilnius. In fact, I had the honor of going with Stephanie and her husband Jonathan and my family. We went to Lithuania a couple of months ago to see the opening of that exhibit that you had worked on, which was an exhibit by an artist, David Lepkowski, who documented what Jewish life was like prior to the Holocaust in 1945. And it was amazing because that was the center for Jewish life around the world. But it was snuffed out in a very short period of time. But hiding in plain sight throughout the city, there's evidence of that prior life. And bringing that exhibit is part of bringing that life back. And not only did she help put that exhibit together, but worked with students, both here in Los Angeles and in Vilnius, to bring the art of David Lepkowski to life. And the students created this interactive exhibit where they hear sounds, and they added things to the art to bring it to life, to help you really feel like you were there at the time. And that exhibit is going to be here in the Rotunda this fall. And I hope that you're all going to be able to experience that, because it's quite something. Stephanie is one of those people who just does it because it needs to be done. She's a woman who is inspiring to so many people. You look at all the things I mentioned that she's involved with, I didn't recall one issue that had to do with her own needs. It was always for the good of a cause, remembering the lives lost in the Holocaust, helping babies, supporting the congregations of families, educating our youth. This is what Deborah is all about. This is what these Deborah Awards are all about. So thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate all that you do for our community and for Los Angeles. And with that, I wanted to give you a certificate recognizing you. So please accept this small token of appreciation on behalf of the City of Los Angeles for all that you do. Okay, thank you. Thanks. And before I wrap up, I'm going to mention two other wonderful women who are sponsors today, Tabby Raphael and Shavra Shevrington. They are two sponsors of today's events and the month-long exhibit. And if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to put this event together. You've probably read Tabby's articles in the Jewish Journal, or you know her from 30 Years After, which is an incredible Iranian-American Jewish organization, which she was a co-founder of. And you probably know Shava from the Jewish Multiracial Network and Bend the Arc. So both of these women should be recognized and applauded for their efforts. So let's give them a round of applause, and I'm going to give them certificates as well.
Well, it's my honor today to recognize and celebrate Gina Nahai, a remarkable resident of Council District 5. Gina's a critically acclaimed author of multiple novels, and she's a professor emeritus of creative writing at USC, where she taught for well over a decade. But I'll forgive her for that. Her novels have been translated into 18 languages and have been selected as one of the best books of the year by the Los Angeles Times and the Chicago Tribune. Gina writes a monthly column for the Jewish Journal, for which she has twice been a finalist for an LA Press Club Award. As an author, one of the most remarkable things about Gina's work is her ability to show the reader the seemingly lost world of Persian Jewry in Iran before the revolution in 1979. She allows the reader to see real stories and real people in a world that is so different from what it was. While she is always historically accurate, she also tries to show us the magic of the memories of that time and place, taking us on adventures inside the Iranian people and history. Her novels are truly beautiful and evocative of a mysterious and beautiful place and time, and I have found them absolutely spellbinding. Given that there are now more Persian Jews living in Los Angeles than there are in Iran, with most of them in Council District 5, I might add, her novels and ability to understand and express that part of the world is truly vital to this important immigrant community. In addition to her writing talents, she's also a frequent lecturer on contemporary politics of the Middle East. She's been a guest on PBS and CNBC, as well as many other local television and radio news programs. She served as a judge for the Los Angeles Times Book Award, and she's on the board of several organizations, including the International Women's Media Foundation and B'nai Zion Western Region. She holds a BA and a master's degree in international relations from UCLA and an MFA in creative writing from USC. She lives in Council District 5 with her family, and I can't think of a better example of someone who is creating change in Los Angeles than Gina. Let's give her a round of applause.
Of course.
Also, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Rabbi Denise Egger. As detailed in the Jewish Heritage Month exhibit, the 5th District is also proud to celebrate and honor her. Rabbi Egger is the founding rabbi of Congregation Kol Ami, West Hollywood's Reformed Synagogue, which, of course, I enjoyed being an occasional visitor to that congregation with some frequency when I was a West Hollywood City Council member. Rabbi Egger believes that activism is an important part of her rabbinate, and which is showed clearly through her leadership activities. In particular, in June 2008, she had the honor of officiating at the first legal wedding for a lesbian couple in California. She was the founding president of the Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual Interfaith Clergy Association, in addition to many more leadership roles in the area of equal rights for all, both in the Jewish community and the community at large. She also served as president of the Southern California Board of Rabbis. And so it's my honor to recognize her and present her with a certificate. Also, I'm going to go off script for 2 seconds and recognize in the audience Gabriella and Ezra Friedlander, who put together an event in Washington, D.C. annually for Jewish Heritage Month. If they could stand up and be recognized. Finally, I also want to thank our sponsor, the UCLA Alan D. Leviu Center for Jewish Studies, a world-class research center and intellectual hub for the study of Jewish culture, religion, thought, literature, and so much more. Thank you for being a partner for Jewish Heritage Month.
Thank you, Paul. Moving along, there are so many honorees that we want to recognize who deserve our recognition. But for my first honoree, I'd like to call up Jewish Family Services to come on up. I am so proud to recognize a leader in helping children and families struggling with homelessness and poverty, and that is the Jewish Family Services Hope Transitional Program. Jewish Family Services, as stated before, history dates back to the city's very beginning as a Hebrew Benevolent Society in 1854. It was the first charitable organization in Los Angeles when Los Angeles had fewer than 2,000 residents. Today, the Jewish Family Services Hope Transitional Team is a beacon of light to children, families, and victims of domestic violence. Last year, Hope Transitional served over 400 victims of domestic violence and 325 of their children with shelters and counseling centers. 93% of the folks who entered into these shelters moved on to permanent housing, and 100% increased their income through employment. Their work is critical to our city and its people, and I am proud to present this commendation to the Jewish Family Services Hope Transitional Program. Thank you. Next, I am proud to recognize a trailblazer, a visionary and a dear friend, Donna Bajarski. Donna is someone who not only ignites change today, but envisions a Los Angeles of tomorrow that we all can strive towards. The initiative she founded, called Future of Cities, brings together thought leaders from across industries and backgrounds to foster innovative leadership, aspire to our ideals as a city, and to empower a new kind of civic thinking. She has also launched the Rutenberg's New Leaders Project with the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, and co-founded LA Works, the city's largest volunteer action network. This is a woman who doesn't accept the way things are, but instead imagines what they can be. I'm so proud to recognize our next honoree, my friend Donna Bajarski. My final honoree is Frida Berger. Frida is a Holocaust survivor who Frida is a Holocaust survivor who never lost her faith or her spirit for helping others. Even in Auschwitz, Frida was known as a go-getter. She served food to thousands of women and always held fast to her faith. 2 decades after being liberated by American troops in 1945, Frida moved to Los Angeles, where she and her husband ran a meat market. For decades, and to this day, she continues to serve and support, cooking for the homeless and helping those in need. I am honored to present this commendation to Frida Berger.
This is my third golden country. Belgium #1, Canada #2, and God bless America #3. And I only speak 10 languages. Here is my baby, my son, who came specially to bring me here. I'm only 94, but I wish you the best, and I work like somebody who is 20. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Frida, along with Sidonia, is not just a survivor, she is a thriver. Next, I'd like to bring up Councilmember Greg Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Rue, for putting me behind Frida. Appreciate that. It's a pleasure for me to be here today to honor a great organization in our community, as well as a great lady in our community. Phyllis is here, and if Carrie Jacobs is here. Carrie? There she is. In 1893, Hannah Solomon attended a conference in Europe called the World Parliament of Religions. She was given the ignominious job of passing coffee out to the men who were attending the conference. Coming back from that, she said, we have to elevate the women's role in society. We have to elevate certainly the Jewish women's role in our society. And she founded the National Council on Jewish Women. That organization went on to be formed here in Los Angeles in 1909, 110 years ago. And since that time, they have contributed a great deal to the fabric of our community, the history of our community, supporting women in Jewish faith as well as families and youth, and working to stop the crimes against women. They are a great organization in our community, has added so much to the history of Los Angeles, and it's with my great pleasure that we recognize today the National Council on Jewish Women, in particular, Carrie Jacobs. Thank you very much. And the second one is a woman who's a very personal friend of mine for a very long time. We met prior to her employment here in the City of Los Angeles. She joined the City of LA in 1988 as the planning deputy for my predecessor, Councilman Hal Burnson. She went on to serve me as 8 years as my chief as planning deputy and to work over the years, particularly with Hal Burnson, in the Plum Committee, which we all know is really the front line of battles in the City of Los Angeles. She became probably one of the best known planning deputies in the history of the City of LA. We did, under her term, the Porter Ranch Plan, which is still a plan being built today. Some 30 years later, it was recognized as one of the finest planned communities in America. She contributed to the rebuilding and redesign of the Van Nuys Airport, numerous projects in my district, went on to serve Mitchell Englander, and for her service with Mitchell Englander when she retired, the council district staff at District 12 named an entire wing of our office in our district office the Phyllis Winger Wing. She is a dear lady that continues her commitment to the Valley. She is working now on our project, which is tomorrow, is a recognition luncheon for police and firefighters, and she is truly a gem of the City of Los Angeles, and it's my pleasure to honor Phyllis Winger.
Good morning, colleagues. I know it will come as a surprise to you to learn that I am not Jewish, but I am so appreciative of my colleagues for including me and all of us in this celebration of Jewish heritage, because Jewish heritage truly is something that we all share. The heritage of this faith is the foundation for the faith of almost all of us in this country. The heritage of Jewish immigration to the United States is a heritage that we all share, those of us who came before and those who are still coming today. The Jewish heritage of contribution to this society and to American history and culture is a heritage that we all benefit from. And the Jewish heritage of commitment to civil rights and justice and healing the world is hopefully one that we will all continue to share, but it's certainly one that we all benefit from. So thank you all for bringing us all together, Jews and non-Jews alike. So Marlene, if you can join me. So if you grew up in the San Fernando Valley, as I did in the 1960s or 70s or 80s, you knew about the dean of San Fernando Valley politics, Assemblyman Tom Bain, a leader who served and shaped the San Fernando Valley for 2.5 decades. He was the dean of San Fernando Valley legislators. He was the author of the Bain Civil Rights Act, hate crimes legislation, expanding health care opportunities for Californians, and was such an influential member of the California State Legislature and a longtime chair of the Rules Committee that even today, when you go to our Capitol and visit the Rules Committee room of the State Assembly, you'll see the plaque honoring Tom Bain, who the Rules Committee room is named after. But when I was growing up, you also almost never heard the name Assemblyman Tom Bain without hearing Tom and Marlene Bain. And I'm so proud that a real leader of the San Fernando Valley and of San Fernando Valley politics and of a trailblazer for women in the San Fernando Valley is standing next to me today, my dear and longtime friend, Dr. Marlene Bain. So, throughout the time that Assemblyman Tom Bain was making his mark in California history, Marlene Bain was always at his side, not only as his spouse, but also as his chief political advisor, as I don't know if you were technically called the chief of staff, but you were certainly the chief of staff in the Capitol office and in the district office. And when I was 19 years old, it was Marlene Bain who gave me my first job in politics when you were 25, I think, right. Actually. It was, so for the last 40 years, Marlene Bain has helped to shape my life and so many of us who've been involved in democratic politics in the San Fernando Valley. In fact, I knew that my commitment to Jewish heritage would be a long and personal one when I received from Marlene as a Christmas present my first yarmulke. And I knew that that was a profound statement that would stay with me for a long time. But Marlene Bain really professionalized political campaign consulting. She professionalized political fundraising. She was a historic leader in both of those areas and helped shape what we all take for granted now today. She's been one of the most important female leaders in the Jewish Committee for decades, including important positions for the Jewish Home for the Aging, with the executives and the Board of Governors there. She was chair of the board of the American Jewish Committee. She was working with the National Association of Jewish Legislators for many years, led trips to Israel by decision makers and policy makers throughout our country who got a firsthand look at Israel as a result of Marlene's work. And she was the recipient of the Arabian Award for her San Fernando Valley leadership and the Ira Yellen Award for community service by the AJC, both testaments to her incredible leadership in Southern California. And she did all of this while also spending a lifetime struggling with and suffering from lupus. And she's become a nationally known, recognized leader and advocate in the fight against lupus, and especially has been supportive of the City of Hope and other institutions that have worked so hard to try to battle this disease for those who are suffering from it. So it's my great privilege to be able to recognize the incredible contributions that Marlene Bain has left to the San Fernando Valley, all of Los Angeles, and to the state of California. Congratulations. And next, members, it's my great privilege to recognize one of the sponsors of today's event, the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, which for over 100 years has been contributing, doing the most impactful work in the community, leveraging its resources to assure the continuity of the Jewish people, to support a secure state of Israel, to care for Jews in need here and abroad, and to mobilize on issues of concern to the local community, all with local, national, and international partners. And I will say the Jewish Federation also has sponsored many trips to visit Israel. I was fortunate enough to be able to visit Israel with the Jewish Federation, and it was a life-changing, eye-opening trip, and I'm incredibly grateful for the Jewish Federation for that. And I'm privileged to be able to recognize Alyssa Finston. Alyssa?
Thank you. Thank you, Council Member. I'm Elisa Finston, the Senior Vice President of Community Engagement for the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles. I am thrilled to be here today on behalf of the Jewish Federation to recognize and celebrate the achievements and contributions of Jewish women to Los Angeles. The Jewish Federation is very much a part of the Los Angeles Jewish community and the fabric of the community, and we have been around, as the Council Member said, for well over 100 years. Our Federation works with our partners to address the needs of the community and bring together all corners of the Jewish community, both here and abroad. The name of the exhibit that was created for this month-long celebration of Jewish American Heritage Month, Being Deborah, a history of Jewish women creating change in Los Angeles, is very appropriate, as Jewish women have been creating change for a very long time, since Sarah, together with Abraham, began the journey of the Jewish people. As we know, the four founding matriarchs of the Jewish people are Sarah, Rachel, Rebecca, and Leah. There is an idea that each of the four corners of the talit, which is the prayer shawl that Jews wear during prayer, represents one of the four matriarchs. There is an organization called Women of the Wall that actually makes a talit that depicts each of the four matriarchs, Sarah, Rachel, Rebecca, and Leah, represented on one of the corners of the talit. During the prayer service, we pull together the strings from the four corners of the talit just as Jews from the four corners of the world come together to care for one another and the community at large. When you wear a talit, you wrap the prayer shawl around you, sort of like an embrace. And here we are today. The city of Los Angeles is coming together to embrace Jewish women and the contributions that these women have made throughout history to this great city. A very proud moment for the Jewish community and for the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Next, I am proud to welcome up Chair of the Women's International Zionist Organization, Gina Raphael, to introduce the next performance.
The Women's International Zionist Organization will celebrate its 100th anniversary in 2020. Our organization is led by Deborahs, women who through the decades have worked to improve the lives of Israelis with youth villages, daycare centers, women's shelters, women's leadership, immigrant absorption, and programs for the elderly. WITZO is so honored to support Jewish Heritage Month as we empower women to lead at home in Los Angeles and across the globe for the State of Israel. I am so honored today as well as a mother of 3 adopted children from China who have all attended Orthodox Jewish Day School to welcome the Shalhevet Choir. I am so honored to be associated with Shalhevet. My daughter Sydney Gross graduated last year. It is the only modern Orthodox high school in Los Angeles that is co-ed, and the Choir Hawks are truly amazing. So I'm so honored to welcome them today to our celebration here and to welcome them for all of you. Thank you so much.
These are the Choir Hawks of Shalhevet High School. We're delighted and honored to be here today with this humongous Jewish community and to be part of it. We were asked to sing something about a Jewish woman, and we realized we didn't know any songs about Jewish women. It's a very famous song about Miriam, really sung by Miriam the prophetess after the Jews crossed out of Egypt. So we made up a new song for today about what Miriam must have told the women and the night before they crossed out of Egypt. They were probably very afraid. They were probably worried about what was to come. And we were imagining what Miriam must have said to the women and maybe to everybody to give them the courage to cross into the future. Oh, where's Andrew? Oh, Andrew, back. It's an original song.
Don't be scared, don't look back, nothing will knock you off this track. Stand tall.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Let's give another big round of applause for the Shalvett Choir Hawks of the Jerry and Jean Shalvett High School. And thank you, Council President, for your indulgence. To all my members, thank you so very much. And to all the audience who came today, we made it. You know, it's an incredible feat. 6 council members, city attorney, and Controller Ron Galper all coming together to do this amazing celebration of Jewish Heritage Month. That only happens once a year. And I want to say, Council President, we probably hold the record for the longest presentation. Jewish Heritage Month, which we'll never forget. And as we close, I just want to quickly say that, you know, being Deborah takes its name from Jewish women of history, a female judge of Israel who was just, fair, and courageous. She was a prophet for all Israelites, but I don't know if she even knew or could have foreseen what would happen today. All the Jewish women to follow in our footsteps. And I just want to recognize folks like Renee Weitzer from my office, Adina Bleish, who helped plan this, or those who came before us like Valerie Fields, who worked in Mayor Bradley's office for 20 years, and of course our dear friend Barbara Yaroslavsky, who unfortunately we lost earlier this year. But you know, this celebration will continue in the forecourt, where we will have more performances, where you can meet everyone. You could see the bridge display between City Hall East and West, And with that, I want to say thank you and for celebrating Jewish Heritage Month in the city of Los Angeles. But Council President, while we have everyone here, and before we part, I do have a separate presentation that I think is so appropriate, and I want to bring up Rabbi Rossoff. I think it is so appropriate that during this important celebration that we recognize this incredible Jewish leader who is retiring this year. Rabbi Rossoff, for many of you who already know, led Temple Israel of Hollywood as senior rabbi for over 30 years. And you know, I'm going to let him speak for himself because he is a man of not just words, but of actual ethical action. He is a person of many firsts, someone who led Temple Israel in its rebirth. But I do want to say, having heard him speak at the synagogue many times, there's one message that he gave that really resonated with me. He was actually speaking for himself, but I think it's applicable to all of us as elected officials, and I know it personally resonated with me and brought me a lot of peace. And I just want to quote him in his sermon. He said, "I served 3 congregations over the past 40 years in San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. Being a congregational rabbi for so long has defined me to a great extent. But titles are temporary. Status is fleeting. And position is cursory to who I really am and who you really are. When we strip away all the titles and veils, we realize what's most important. Family, friendship, relationships, in a community that touches us and elevates us." Rabbi Rossoff.
Thank you, Councilman. And I was reflecting that the last time a member of my family appeared before the City Council of Los Angeles was in 1913 or 1914. It was my great aunt, Fanny Charlip. And she had created in her own home a sanitarium for tuberculosis victims who would come to her because she was one in the East, and her doctor said, "You need to move to a warmer climate." So she and my grandparents came in the 1908-1909 period. And then at a certain point, her husband said, "Enough with having all these TB patients in our home. We need to create something anew." And so they went to the LA City Council and said, "We want to create a sanitarium for tuberculosis patients in the city of Los Angeles." And they said, "Nothing doing." They didn't want any part of it. And I know that wouldn't be the case for this city council. And so what they did is they went to a place called Duarte, and they either leased or bought land, set up tents, and created what came to be known as the City of Hope. So I take, as a descendant of my grandparents and my great aunt and uncle and two other families who joined with them. That is a model that I grew up with, and my synagogue, Temple Israel of Hollywood, has been for 92 years a beacon light of social justice and hope and intergroup relations, and continues to do so in a wide variety of ways in our own community. And I am deeply honored, David, to receive, wherever you went, I'm deeply honored to receive this, and I think my great aunt and uncle and my grandparents would be very proud. So thank you.
And with pleasure and honor, on behalf of the entire City Council, the Mayor, the Controller, and the City Attorney, I'd like to present this on behalf of your retirement, well-deserved retirement. But we know you're not going away anywhere, and you'll still be around. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Rossoff. Thank you, and with that we conclude, and happy Jewish Heritage Month.
One
Thank
more
you.
big round of applause. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. All right. If we can get some quiet, Madam Clerk, I want to go into public comment. If I can get the sergeants to remove the rope, I'm going to call up our first four speakers: Andres Martinez, Michael Bermudez, Michael Contreras, and Ron Herrera. If we could please come up. Members. And sergeants, if you could please close the door so we could get some silence. Shh. Let's close that door. Mr. Martinez, the floor is yours.
Buenos días, concejales. Mi nombre es Andrés Martínez. Yo era un chofer de camión en Athens Service y fui responsable de recoger los residuos comerciales de Koreatown, así como en otras partes de la ciudad. Me involucré en el esfuerzo de organizar mi yarda. Okay, so.
I can translate.
Okay, we're going to.
Start over, Deja que traduzco, pues, comience desde arriba. Línea, por favor, para que...
Entender, okay.
Yes.
Testing, testing, testing.
¿Listo?
¿Va a leer todo eso?
Sí.
Lea usted, entonces.
Buenos días, concejales. Mi nombre es Andrés Martínez.
Good morning, council members. My name is Andres Martinez.
Yo era chofer de camión de Athens Service y fui responsable de recoger los residuos comerciales en Koreatown, así como en otras ciudades.
I used to be a driver for Athens Services, and I was also responsible for picking up commercial residue in Koreatown as well as in other parts of the city.
De hecho, me uní al comité de negociación para ayudar a negociar los términos del contrato de mi compañía.
As a matter of fact, I joined the organization to be able to negotiate with the issues over with the company and the contracts for my job.
Desafortunadamente, creo que Athens me despidió debido a mis esfuerzos por organizar nuestra yarda, pero hoy estoy aquí porque todavía quiero justicia para mis compañeros.
Unfortunately, I believe that Athens fired me and let me go due to my efforts in trying to organize my group, and I'm here anyway to try and tell you that I want justice for myself and my colleagues at work.
Mis compañeros de trabajo merecen un contrato sólido que les brinde atención médica accesible para que ellos y sus familias puedan acudir al médico cuando se enfermen.
My colleagues at work deserve a contract that is solid, one that will give them the medical attention they deserve, that is accessible as well as for their families, and one they can go to when they need to in case they are sick.
Merecen tener una pensión para poder jubilarse con dignidad y no tener que trabajar hasta que sus cuerpos se rompan.
They also deserve to have a pension plan, one that will allow them to retire with dignity, not one that requires them to break their bodies.
Y merecen poder trabajar sin temor a represalias.
And they also deserve to be able to work without having to face reprisals.
Athens Service tiene el contrato de residuos más grandes.
Explain to Mr. Martinez he needs to end it now. Got to wrap it up.
Hay que terminar su última oración. Su último punto.
Athens Service tiene el contrato más grande de la ciudad de Los Ángeles. Y creo que es una injusticia que un contrato, una compañía tan grande de Los Ángeles esté abusando de sus servicios.
Athens Services has the largest contract in the city of Los Angeles, and I think it is an injustice to have a contractor with such an important contract in Los Angeles be abusing their workers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Contreras. Mr. Bermudez, whoever was next.
Good morning, Councilman. My name is Mike Bermudez. I am a former truck driver at Athens Services. Like Andres, I became involved in trying to unionize my yard in Torrance because I wanted to provide a better life for my wife and my 2 sons, as well as my brother who also works there. Unfortunately, like also Andres, Athens fired me after I joined the bargaining committee. However, before firing me, one of the managers, Michael Lattermeyer, called me into the back room and offered me an opportunity to keep my job if I agreed to circulate an anti-union petition. Fortunately for me, I was able to land a job with the union company, which means that now I have a voice on my job. And most important of all, I'm able to provide a better living for my family, and I want the same for all my brothers at Athens Services. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. I think now, Ms. Contreras.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Michael Contreras, and I'm an organizer with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. I'm a part of a group of organizers that have been helping workers at Athens Services like Andres and Mike organize their union. However, instead of remaining neutral and respecting the rights of their workers to organize, Athens has engaged in an aggressive campaign to intimidate them. You had just heard 2 stories underscoring this, but sadly there are several more examples to share. Athens has fired workers who were on the bargaining committee. Athens has surveilled employees in an effort to intimidate them from participating in union activity. But don't take my word for it. It's all been documented by the NLRB's general counsel in these charges. This past weekend, I visited a worker at his residence. He and his pregnant wife live in what was converted from a garage into a small place no bigger than 15 feet by 15 feet. He is making around $400 per paycheck. How is a man supposed to support his wife and child on $400? These workers are the backbone of a vital service in our city, and they deserve justice, respect, and the ability to make a decent living. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herrera. Welcome, sir.
President Weston, city councilmen and women, I'm just here to update you. What you're hearing today is actual testimony from a couple of workers and an organizer that's in the houses of these workers. One of the things that we want to accomplish here today is to let you know that the Teamsters haven't gone anywhere. You haven't seen us around for a little while, but we'll be back in here as this thing escalates, and we hope that it doesn't. And as far as being the principal officer of Local 396, we are willing to negotiate a contract anytime Athens Services wants to. Thank you, Mr. President.
Eric Previn, are you ready? General public comment? Mr. Previn?
You started my time. What is it, general public
Hold
comment?
on for just a second, Mr. Previn. You've got items 1A, items 229 in general public comment.
So I'll start with the general public comment because that's what they were doing,
Go
which
ahead.
is, you know, I appreciate a good presentation. I think many of us do. But it raises questions when there's a huge item on the agenda today about the budget. You're playing these very strange games where nobody knows there's a budget meeting. There was a 2-hour presentation, and yet still you persist, even though you've been instructed that you violated the Brown Act on May 23rd. And then today, these guys come down, and we've heard from the non-unionized contractor workers. And these guys, Athens, sir, what do you have to say about Athens? I mean, this is a pernicious group that has an enormous market share. They're part of the Recycle LA, along with Republic and Waste Management. And I don't know, my heart, You know, I feel their pain. These guys sat here for 2 hours, and then Commander Wesson had the nerve to say, you're going to have to wrap it up. There are 50 people standing here. Why couldn't they make their point, which were very strong points, by the way? So I just have to tell you, I'm very proud of Jewish heritage, but I'm very disappointed in City Hall. And I stand with the workers who deserve a fair wage in Los Angeles, where you can't read in any newspaper anything but the spread between the cost of living and the cost of,
Okay,
wages.
You gotta move on to the items you signed up for.
The items?
1 minute is
Sure.
over.
Yeah, no, I'll go to the items right now, and I apologize for, going general public comment first. First of all, kudos to CD12 for wheeling out a couple of prominent naming of streets during an election. Thanks, guys. And the alley team from Mr. Koretz's office and Mr. Marquise Harris Dawson's office. Obviously, fixing the alleys is a critically important part of fixing the roads and the streets in our...
Could you move on to the items you signed up for, Mr. Previn, please?
I thought I did sign up for those items.
You signed up for liens, street lighting item, and the budget resolution. That's it.
Yeah, so okay, fine. So the liens, first of all, the liens, I just want to say, nice try. You reduced it, Martinez, by like $8. So that made you seem like a big hero. It went from $9.32 to $9.28. That's insulting to the people. But thank you for reducing it something. In terms of taking gifts from big gun companies, whereas I appreciate O'Farrell's pernicious effort to scan for affiliation down here at City Hall when you're doing contracts.
Would you get on the items you signed up for, Mr.
No, I
Previn?
thought I did. $276,000 gift of guns is terrific, but I don't think that...
I believe that item
Mr. Trevor, this
already...
is your last warning.
Okay,
Get
let
on
me go-
the items,
let me go
or
to-
I'm going to ask you to leave.
You're not going to ask me to leave, but the lighting districts are certainly worth commenting on if that's what you want. But let's hold them until I get to the budget, because I want to give Krikorian, my feedback on that. I think it's an illegal process. I think that when a special meeting is held, you actually have to take comment. You can't do what you tried to do, which is have a little press conference the day after you took public comment. So that's going to be challenged, number one. Number two, I want to emphasize that a 1% increase, while those workers who are getting screwed, a 1% increase is going to cost $32 million, each 1% increase for city workers. So if we give them a 3% raise, which is common and typical but insulting, because 3% increase is nothing compared to the, I think it's, what is it, Blumenfield, over the last 5 years, 73% increase in our property value, the cost to live around here. So to increase the wages, 0% is unthinkable, 3% is insulting, and the people, the regular people who drive the trucks, who deliver the goods, who make the city work, are getting hammered over and over again. So it's not the best budget in the world. Okay, it's a good budget for you because you've been able to increase the reserves, but let's be clear, the reserves are increasing commensurate to the size of the overall budget. So last year we didn't crest 10 billion, 10.6, so that's why the reserve is at a historic high. Let's not get lost in the bullshit, if I may use the official term. Let's try to be honest with the folks that we do have a pulsating liability coming with the law enforcement and the fire department, because 1.5 billion, Blumenfield, we can check the math, it is 45 million in 2022. So where's that money coming from? Aren't we starting to squirrel that away? That's not the reserve. The reserve is for when the earthquake comes next month, which I'm worried about, and I think we all are. It's been so cold and unseasonably cold. And so with that, I would just simply say you got to get it better, because this is not working well. Thank you.
The next speaker, Armando Herman.
What are my items, Mommy? You already started the clock. Is this general
You need
public
to speak
comment?
on item 1A, 2, and 29 in general public comment.
General public comment? You let the other gentleman go at general public comment, so why can't I have a bitch, HHH under general public comment?
Yeah, just go ahead. Go ahead. 1 minute of general public comment.
Okay, well.
Fuck the DA, fuck the Jews, and fuck the Holocaust. It never happened. This is the United States of America, and we're practicing constitutional civil rights, Bill of Rights. Wake up, Smith, because you got to hear this fucking shit. You got to answer to the people. We the people, and as you heard those workers here this morning, they want their jobs. I'm here in support of the lobbyists who want to keep their jobs. But for the rest of you white nigger politicians, 42 U.S.C. 1983, fuck the rest of you for what you do. You criminalize people with the threat management unit. You send out your dogs with the TROs, and all you want to do is create anxiety and stress on people because you're nothing more but a bunch of crybaby liars. Bunch of crybaby liars, Mommy. Fuck you. As Matt Dow would say politely, fucked up. So hearing protests on liens, yeah, appeals or objections are fucked up. Matt Dell, regarding Building and Safety Department's report, he confirmed the issue about your violations of civil rights, dealing with complaints of code violations and annual inspections and costs, making people homeless. Design, pattern, and practice. Design, practice, and pattern. You're an insult. Nothing more but nimbussals who practice the law of code enforcement inspection when you had David Adelman who tried to rape a woman with a drug. Then you have a protest on CD8 where the nigga from the CD8 nigga district was talking about Western Avenue streetlights. But apparently your code and your Proposition 218, Mommy, was not in compliance. So you demanded an ordinance in intention adopted back on March. Well, March 27th is over. That was a holiday. It don't count. So you can't continue this hearing without protest, with public participation. So I demand that those street lights stop immediately in CD8, and you tell that white nigger politician to let the people be heard. They want to be heard. They don't need street lights. They need money to get out of the ghetto, to get out of the concentration camp, to get out of the village that you created. They messed with the Armando's audio, niggas. Then my final report. Annual budget. Why did you suppress Eric Previn from the budget the other day? It was a special. It was a special, but Eric Previn wasn't at the budget. Wayne Spindler and Armando Herman participated in that fiscal year for the new coming 2019-20 budget, but they were deemed excluded and tossed out of a public meeting because you racist motherfuckers, you Holocaust son of a bitches, wanted to discriminate. And it's always been the issue. You want to retaliate. How do you do it? You use threat management unit. How do you do it? You get the chief analyst report and you stick it to the public by not allowing public participation. Fuck you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's go ahead and vote on item 1A. Go ahead and vote on 1A. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Is Rose Phillips here? Rose Phillips is not here. Let's go ahead and vote on items 2 and 29. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Let's go ahead and send item 29 forthwith. There's one last public comment card, Patricia. There's no one here by that name. Then I'm going to go ahead and close general public comment. Okay, Madam Clerk, what's before us?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Posted and referred. Members, are there any announcements? Seeing none, can we all rise for adjourning motions? Are there any adjourning motions to my left? Any adjourning motions to my right? Seeing none, have a good afternoon. Our meeting is adjourned.